Hi everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca Stu and the crew. Today we have 3 spring DIY craft ideas for you, and we'll go over the supplies for each one individually. From the Dollar Tree for craft number 1, we're going to use one of these small signs with the metal plate on the front, a miniature scraper, some white and pink paint, brown paint or antiquing wax, a paintbrush. We're also going to need some yarn, some ribbon, a pair of scissors. We'll need hot glue, some Crafters Square vinyl, their miniature ornaments or a printout from the internet, and a pom-pom maker. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to scrape the words off of the background here. You can use nail polish remover. If it has acetone in it, sometimes it will change the coloring of the background of this metal plate. I'm not sure why. It just for some reason interacts weird with it, and sometimes it doesn't. It just is like a hit and miss. I'm not really sure what the difference is. So I just decided to go ahead and scrape mine off, and then I'm going to clean it off with a damp rag to make sure I get all those little shards of paint off. So now I'm going to use this printout from the internet, but you can use these miniature ornaments as well, and a Sharpie to do a springtime shape. So I wanted this rabbit, and I really like the way the ears were on this printout from the internet. It's just a bunny silhouette, free printable, and they have the little miniature ornaments from Dollar Tree, which are about the same size, and you'll just want to lay that on top of your vinyl and trace around it. So then we'll cut it out with our scissors, and when you are cutting around like the ears and the little area by the neck, you do want to be careful just because the vinyl is kind of thin and it will tear if you force the scissors into that space. Now, using the pom-pom maker from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use the smaller one. You get 2 in a pack. They had these out a few months ago, and I've seen them a few times since. So they just came out this year. What we're going to do is open up the pom-pom maker and start wrapping our yarn on 1/2. So we will wrap it with white back and forth on both sides there. Then I start in with some gray. I go back over it with white and then gray one more time just to make it two-toned. And I don't cut the yarn until I'm completely done with the color that I'm using. I just pull it over to the side once I wrap it over to the edge, and I just hold on to it with my hand until I'm done with that color. That way I don't have to keep, cutting and starting a new piece of ribbon. So once I have that all filled in, you just close it up, and then you'll wrap the other side exactly the same, and then cut through the center with your scissors, and you'll cut both sides. Now, if you don't have a pom-pom maker, that's okay. You can use a toilet paper roll. You can use cardboard. Lots of different ways you can make a pom-pom without having one of these little makers. They're just kind of convenient to have, but they're not hard to make without one. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So then we're going to take a piece of yarn, tie it around the center portion, and then tie really tight so it goes down into that little crease. Flip it over, and then we'll tie it again on the other side, and I double knot it on this side. Then we will just simply open it up and pull the pieces apart, and your pom-pom is done. So now we need to trim it a little bit because obviously there are some pieces that are not the same size because you need to cut it through that center portion, and there's only so much you can do to get it exactly right. So you do need to trim up these little pieces that are too long, and just kind of shape your pom-pom to make sure it's nice and round. And you can actually make it a lot smaller than this if you want it to be a little bit smaller. Just cut little bits at a time to make sure that you're still keeping that round shape. So once we have it all trimmed, we'll just set that aside. So again, I decided to paint my metal background. I didn't like the vinyl that I chose to use with the sign. When I put it on the silver background, it kind of washed it out. So that's why I chose to paint the background here. So I'm just going to use this light ballerina pink paint, and then I do end up doing 2 coats, and I will let it dry in between each layer. So once it's dry, I went in with some white paint, and I paint the little nail heads with the white paint to help those stand out a little bit. And then I wanted to kind of age this a little bit. So I took some antiquing wax. If you don't have that, you can just take some brown paint and put a lot of water in it to water it down, and then brush it on lightly to your metal background here. And then as you can see, I just dabbed tiny little bits of the antiquing wax on, and then I kind of smudge it out with my finger. You can use a little like a sponge or something to do that if you don't want to use your finger, but I'm just helping to kind of blurred that sharp, bright pink edge with the burlap background. I just wanted to kind of blur that edge a little bit there. So then we'll peel the backing off of the vinyl and we'll stick our bunny onto the front here. So again, this is just like a sticker. So you're just going to, work from the bottom up towards the top as you apply it, just to make sure you don't get any air bubbles underneath. Then taking our hot glue gun, we're going to take that pom-pom we made earlier and glue that on over the tail. And then to help make this look a little bit more finished on the front, I took a piece of white ribbon and just make a very simple bow. And then I keep making it smaller until I have it about the right size. For the neck area, I wanted it to kind of reach from each side of the neck without going over. And then I fold the two corners in at the bottom tassel part and cut it at an angle. So I have this little V-shaped mark at the bottom. Then I'll take some more hot glue and add that to the bow, and then add the bow pretty much like at an angle to kind of match the way the bunny was sitting, so it looks like a collar. And as you can see, I also used the pink paint to paint around the trim of the sign, and then I attached this buffalo plaid ribbon to the center of the trim. And I just do that all the way around. I started at the top and then I work my way around to the sides, and that way the bottom, when you get to the bottom, you won't see where the ribbon overlaps. So I wanted to make sure that it ended at the bottom of the sign here. I just add a few dots of hot glue and try to match it up as close as I can. And that is this project all finished. It's really simple, nice and easy. So now let's go over our supplies for our second project. So from the Dollar Tree, we are going to use one of these DIY cloths. We're also going to be using these fabric squares that they've had out lately. These strips, they come in a bunch of different colors. Also some hot glue. We'll need, again, a little ornament shape. We'll need some scissors. Also a Sharpie. We're going to use from Hobby Lobby their iron-on vinyl. And the household items we'll need is an iron and a towel or a cloth to put over the vinyl when we iron. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is take our iron-on vinyl and the shape that we choose, and we are going to just cut around it so we just have a small piece to work with. It makes it a little bit easier. Now this is the iron-on vinyl, so you'll want to trace your shape in the mirror. So whichever way you want your bunny to be or your shape, make it the opposite when you draw it on, because this is going to be flipped over when we iron it on, if that makes sense. It's like a mirror copy. And then we draw it, of course, onto the back of the iron-on vinyl, because that's the part that's going to stick to the fabric, and the shiny portion is on the top. So we're just going to trim around it with our scissors, and we'll do the same with all three colors of the vinyl. And I always buy my vinyl at Hobby Lobby. When it's on sale, I buy the it's like Paper Studio version, and I get it for like 50% off. So I can buy a roll of it for about $4.50, $5, kind of that price range. So now we're going to take our DIY cloth from Dollar Tree. They just started to carry these large white cloths. I fold it in half and then I cut off the excess. I'm basically making a pillow sham. So I'm going to iron out all the wrinkles, and then I fold the pillow in half, or the pillow sham in half, and I'm just ironing over the trim. I'm going to use hot glue to glue this together. So I just make the square so I can see the front of what the pillow will look like. And then I tape the bunnies down using some heat safe tape. If you don't have the heat safe tape, that's perfectly fine. Just glue one bunny on at a time. I just taped them down so I could do all three at the same time. So put your cloth on top and iron it according to the directions. And then depending on what vinyl you have, you'll either pull this plastic coating off while it's still hot, or you'll wait till it cools down. Just follow the directions. It's on your roll of vinyl. So as you can see, you don't need a vinyl cutter to use the iron-on vinyl. You can definitely use it for simpler shapes to make different projects. So don't let that scare you away. So now we're going to iron it on the back to make sure that the vinyl is stuck down really well. And now we will flip this inside out and fold it over, and I'll iron it again on that crease just to make sure I have it nice and lined up. So I'm just making sure I line it up really well and I iron it on that bottom portion. Now we're going to take those fabric strips from Dollar Tree and we're going to iron them nice and flat. So I chose this light blue with the flowers on it. And these will go on the front of the pillow sham. And we'll use some more ribbon to make ties for the side. So once I have it in the position I want it, I glued the bottom one on already. And then I just position the top ribbon in the same spot. And I start in the center, working my way out towards the edge. And I just put little dots of glue on all the way across. So this is a no-sew project. You cannot throw this in the washer and dryer. You will have to wash and dry it by hand because it's hot glue. If you're using fabric glue, then definitely you can wash this. So now having the whole thing opened up, we'll fold those little excess pieces of the ribbon over the back portion. And we'll do that on the bottom as well. And this is all the way opened up when you're gluing these ribbon down. So now we will fold it back over so it's lined up, and then we're going to glue it together at the top and then fold that raw edge down so we have a nice seam on the outside when we flip this right side. So we're just basically doing a hem with some hot glue. I'm just simply folding it over. And that's why I ironed it first. Just made it easier to fold over nice and straight. I didn't have to worry about trying to line it up. So then I fold this over on this side. And once I have it completely folded over, I iron it one more time just to make sure it stays down. And then I take some hot glue and I put it underneath of that edge and I glue those edges down. And then I'll flip it over and do it on the other side. And then we'll turn the whole thing around and do the same process on the other side. And of course, the bottom we don't have to do because we just folded the piece of fabric over on itself. So once it's completely done and you've fixed the hem on both sides, then all you'll do is fix the pillow sham so that it is right side. So right now it's inside out. We're just going to flip it over and then you can iron it one more time to make it nice and flat. So as you can see, we've got like this large open pocket that we can slide a pillow into. And we're going to take some more of those fabric strips and we're going to make ties for the side. So this is fabric that's only printed on one side. So in order to make it look nicer, I fold it over on itself and then glue it down. Or you can take two pieces and glue them together so that the printed side is facing out. Once you have it all glued together, then what you're going to do is just fold them in half and cut them to make smaller strips. And I ended up using 3 different colors or designs of ribbon for the sides of the pillow. So now you're going to take your 2 strips of fabric that you've cut down and you're going to hold them together and put a strip of glue on both sides and then open up the little pocket and glue it in between. So if you do it this way, then you've got your little ribbons exactly in the same spot on both sides. You don't have to worry about trying to line it up. So just make sure you line them up before you glue them into the pillow sham. And now they're exactly in the same spot and I don't have to worry about them not lining up when I want to tie them. And we'll add all 3 pieces of ribbon. You can add more or less. It's really up to you. If you have thinner strips of fabric, you'll want to add more. And then I tie them on one side. I just use a simple knot. And that way the other side's open so I can slide my pillow in. And then I do dovetail the edges here. So I just fold those corners in and cut a V shape out of them, just to make it a little bit more decorative. And then I'll do the same on the other side. I'll cut the dovetails in, but I haven't tied them yet just because I wanted it to be open so that I could slide my pillow into the pillow sham. And this is what it looks like finished. We just have to add the pillow. And here it is with the pillow inside. And now we'll do project number 3. So let's go over the supplies. From Dollar Tree, we're going to need this little egg set. We'll need the styrofoam craft eggs, some greenery. We're also going to use some Spanish moss, some white paint. You'll need a paintbrush, and then some hot glue and scissors. You can use a razor blade as well. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to remove this little ribbon and we're going to hold on to it because we are going to use it later on in our project. And then we'll take this plastic wrap off and we'll throw that away because we will not be using that again. Now we're just going to take all of the eggs out of the container, hold on to the container. We're going to use that as well. And taking a small pair of scissors, I found the smaller the pair, the better. I picked up these small scissors at the Dollar Tree, and we're just going to cut the eggs pretty much in half. It doesn't have to be exact. And we're just going to cut kind of like a V-shaped pattern, like a chevron pattern into the side. Basically what you would see like a cracked egg. Like if you were drawing an egg, you're just doing little V-shapes in the side to cut it in half. And I just work in small portions. I work towards the top. Like once you get part of the top cut off, it makes it a little bit easier to cut the pieces on the side. And it helps to poke a hole in the side of the egg with your razor blade before you start to cut your notches into your egg. If you go too fast, you will tear the plastic, but you see these little like V-shaped patterns, that's what we're going for. And you can use a razor blade if you like. I had this razor blade. Once you get so much of it cut though, it makes the egg kind of weak because you've taken that top portion away. So it makes it a little bit harder to cut with the razor blade. So I did go back in with the scissors and cut. So it's really up to you what you find is easier. Now we'll paint the eggs. I used 2 coats on the outside because I wanted to not be able to see those little black speckles. And then I paint the top edge, and then on the inside, I just brush over real quick about halfway down one layer. You're really not going to see very much of that, if any at all, so you don't have to be as careful with that. So now we're going to take our foam eggs and cut those in half. And y'all see my cat's paw in the corner. He's always helping me craft. So we're going to take the foam eggs once we've cut them in half, and we're going to squeeze the top of the foam just to make it a little bit smaller if it's too big, and then use a little bit of hot glue and push the foam down into each of the eggs, and we'll fill all 6 of them with the foam. And once we have them filled, we're going to start taking the Spanish moss and we're going to fill each egg with the moss just at the very top. Now we're going to take either the razor blade or scissors and cut a hole right in the top portion, just big enough to force those little green pieces down inside. So it depends on which greenery you use. I tried to cut them all different lengths, and I would add like 1 or 2 or 3 to each egg to make them all different, so they all look like they're at different stages of growth, like you would if you were planting seeds for a garden. And these little pieces that I have came off the stems for the miniature roses that are real small. They're like the size of like the top of your thumb. They sell them in a couple different colors each spring, and they have those out right now. So I cut those off and use those as the green pieces. Then the raffia that we took off of the package when we first started, we're going to wrap that around the carton. I found it easier to get it on and tie it in a knot if you add a little bit of hot glue first and kind of attach the raffia around the outside there. I just couldn't get it to stay in place and tie it without putting little dots of glue as I worked my way around. So then I just tie it in a simple knot, and then I was able to do a bow really easily. And once I have the bow done, I just kind of adjust the loops a little bit so that they're not too big. And then once I have it the way I like it, then I cut off the excess raffia, then take some hot glue, and you'll want to stick it underneath of the bow just to help hold it in place where you want it at, and to make sure that your bow doesn't come untied. This is my favorite project out of all 3. It just makes me think of spring so much. I just absolutely love this project. So here's all 3 projects. We've got our little seedlings here and the Easter eggs. We've also got the bunny sign and the bunny pillow sham. I hope you guys enjoyed these videos. I do DIY craft videos every single Thursday. I try to use mainly items from the Dollar Tree. And then every Friday, I post what's new at the Dollar Tree. And I try to go to at least 5 stores every week and combine all of the things I find into one video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I hope you'll come back tomorrow and see our Dollar Tree video. And here are some other videos from our channel that you might also enjoy. Have a great day, everyone.